inquiry was just being a loving father, great provider,
Hello. Good
financially
morning.
secure,
Surprise live stream.
things of that nature, all indicating an opinion by that witness as to the good character of the defendant, either through direct statements or
The judge right now
circumstantially through the
is
evidence
explaining
that was adduced from that witness. And
what
of
happened
course,
yesterday
that opened
afternoon.
the door for the state to respond by asking questions, as the state did.
Like his ruling on whether or not
Hence, the court overruled the objections. In addition to all of that, the objection was totally inappropriate. As the court laid out and reviewed with the parties early in the trial, that objection should be made and the legal basis stated. An objection of totally inappropriate is, in the words of Judge Joe Anderson, in effect, no objection at all. That's not a legal basis for an objection.
Interesting.
That summarizes the basis for the court's ruling on that issue, as those questions yesterday. And that character type evidence was not only sought by from Mr. Gibson, but also, was it Loving? But also Mr. Loving. And none of that really implicated Rule 404, 404B. One, it opened the door. Number two, it's 404A type reputation questioning that the state had a right to respond to per the rules.
So he's saying the objection from defense yesterday was inappropriate?
Thirdly, it addressed an issue raised in the case by the defense. The defense in the case has primarily been the defendant has such a great character that he could not possibly have committed these offenses. That's been a general thread from opening statement throughout.
He's basically saying the defense opened this up.
The defense introduced through
this is hilarious.
Was also introduced through
this is hilarious
testimony in the case by the defendant that the voting case
horrible but sweet justice way
was a reason for the murders to have occurred, and by the defense inquiring of the witness yesterday as to his knowledge and belief concerning, or his
the defense
knowledge concerning the voting case.
And then they objected, the prosecution cross-examining their defense.
That's the basis for the court's ruling.
Judge is like, you said it, man.
Opening the door, introducing the voting case, and reputation type evidence that the state had a right to respond.
This is incredible.
Under Rule 403.
Good morning, whomever is watching.
To be addressed by the court is Rule 404 issues.
The judge is explaining
and those
why yesterday's objection from the defense at the end of the day, objection to the prosecution saying, did you know about, to a witness, did you know about his financial crimes? Did you know where he was getting his money? Did you know where it was going?
Prior to addressing others.
And defense objected to that when they were the ones that were.
First of all, we do have a Snapchat custodian who has flown in that we need to get in so that person can make the flight. Based on how things ended yesterday, I was prepared this morning. We were planning on going forward with some of the witnesses from the law firm, and that's going to, there's certainly stuff beyond 404, but that's also.
So the jurors aren't in court yet.
Squarely into play. So that's kind of where we were planning to go this morning, Your Honor, with the testimony that we have. I can certainly get some more forensic people rolling. I apologize if I sort of misread what we needed to be ready to do, but that's kind of what we focused on last night and are ready to address this morning.
Well, the court didn't have a lot of time to do jury planning issues, and it might have, jurors typically come at 9:30. It might have been a better idea had, with greater thought, to have had them come later. And I don't know how long these issues will take to be addressed.
I think, with the two law firm witnesses out of the gate, I think, once the court has, we could do, some very focused in-camera testimony. And I think that for those witnesses,
It's rumored that Maggie's family was there yesterday.
And once that's done, then we can get underway with the jury for those witnesses and proceed accordingly. And then, of course, we can certainly have a discussion as far as other witnesses and then perhaps arrange a time to do any other in camera. But I think setting the table with these two witnesses is going to set the table for many of the issues that, whether they're in or out, that the court has to decide.
All right. Well, first, as it relates to Rule 404,
he's talking about the objection.
Rule 404B states that evidence of other crimes or wrongs is not admissible to prove the character of a person in order to show action in conformity therewith. In other words, not admissible to show propensity to commit the crime.
I need a dictionary.
Crime, but it may be admitted for certain other reasons, including motive, identity, intent, and perhaps the existence of a common scheme or plan.
Think it fits that criteria, plus the defense brought it up.
Additionally, I'll address it later regarding res gestae, but my view of the evidence is that evidence of the other alleged crimes can be introduced in this case to show motive, intent, common scheme or plan. Given the proper analysis as it relates to that evidence being offered.
Which the defense said.
As I indicated earlier, that the court agrees with the view and as expressed by the court in U.S. v. Siegel, 536 Federal 3rd 306, wherein the court addressed the issue of previous crimes involving, previous alleged crimes involving multiple victims, and that the state should be able to pursue its theory of proving that why
so grateful for this judge,
or why some such tragic, the motive for such tragic an occurrence to have taken place on the dates alleged here.
Mm-hmm.
And under the federal rule, it goes on to say that evidence of other crimes or bad acts is necessary if it is an essential part of the crimes on trial or where it furnishes part of the context of the crime. This state has not adopted that portion of Rule 404B, but the courts have addressed that issue in some of the cases, particularly one that stands out to me as one of my cases, State v. Frankie Lee McGee.
That's a mouthful.
County. in which the race gestae was used as
What?
a basis for the courts properly allowing certain evidence, including evidence of commission of an earlier crime, the test being whether it logically relates to the crime with which the defendant is charged. Court states in that opinion in the race gestae.
So again, he's going over
basis for the admissibility of the evidence.
Why he's allowing
of other crimes arises when such evidence furnishes
Alex alleged crimes to be part of this trial. Number one, the defense yesterday afternoon kind of opened up for that by saying to the witness, asking, do you know of any reason why Alec would commit this crime
against the defendant, and is so much a part of the setting of the case and its environment that it's.
And did you hear both witnesses saying that that was Alec's voice?
The story of the crime on trial by proving its immediate context.
It's rumored that in Hampton County,
or the uncharged offense,
people are starting to
in point of time and circumstances with the crime charge,
believe that he may be capable of this.
Fully shown without proving.
I don't think a lot of people have listened to the Murdaugh podcast.
And where evidence is
they've just been basically blowing off. It seems like everything is rumor, gossip,
there's no reason
salacious. So
fragmentize the events under inquiry by suppressing.
Although a lot of people have, let me turn this down just a little bit. Although a lot of people have, who aren't close to that community or closely connected, they may have heard of these crimes and things like that, but they don't know a lot of the details because they haven't either wanted to, or they just think that everyone's been lying this whole time. Yes, I listened to comparison to him speaking and then the video. In my opinion, definitely him. Yeah, I think when someone who's grown up around him since he's been 12 has identified that as his voice, yeah. And I do not believe, going back to a few days ago or yesterday, I'm getting days mixed up now. I do not believe Alex said, I did him so bad in that police interview and the officer's vehicle. I believe that he said they did him so bad. I think it hurt the prosecution by bringing that up. I think they could have just played it and let the jury kind of decide on their own, which they're still going to do. But I don't know. I think people do not believe that he said I. Then it's going to come across as the prosecution is kind of reaching and not being 100% truthful, or trying to make something out to be something it's not. And I think there's enough evidence, especially motive, when the jury members, if they don't know already, find out that the day of the murders is when Alec was confronted by his law firm on missing funds, then that's a pretty big motive to me, in my opinion. Oh, I don't know why.
Your Honor's conclusion that we opened the door by presenting evidence of good character, I would respectfully disagree. And the evidence that we presented was specifically limited to the relationship between the defendant and the victim for which he's accused of murdering. In our view, that is not character witness.
But that's not what you only said.
Relating to
you asked a witness
relationship between the parties
if he thought he would do it.
I just want to put that on the record.
If he knew of any reason to do it.
Great emphasis and reliance on
that was on them.
US v. Siegel, and that's a federal case. And I just want.
There's so many Cardinals in our backyard.
I gave the science federal second.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Federal second.
The federal site is 536 F3rd 306.
F3rd, yes.
Yes, sir. And it's
It's
important
raining, so I bet we have worms.
to distinguish the federal crimes for which the defendant in Siegel was charged with. First, the defendant, she was charged with murdering the victim to prevent him from reporting fraud, and that's a specific federal statute, 18 USC 12A1C. She's also charged with impending an official investigation by transporting the deceased body across state lines. But further, the indictment alleged a broader scheme and artifice to defraud. And in the indictment, it listed many of the prior crimes that the defendant committed in the federal indictment. And under federal rule 404B, you can prove those up. And then there were others that the court considered
I don't get his point.
related to the whole scheme and artifice to defraud. The indictment in this case, Your Honor, is simply on June 7th, 2021, the defendant with malice aforethought murdered Ms. Maggie Murdaugh, murdered Mr. Paul Murdaugh.
Right.
Used violent weapons.
What was the motive? They're proving motive.
Those two crimes. There's no scheme and artifice to defraud here.
You're currently addressing it as if the court ruled based on 404. And the court clearly stated that we have not reached any determination on 404, that the basis of the court's ruling was 403.
That's my dog. Sorry.
The voting case, as you introduced through the witness.
Good morning, Nikki.
And opening the door by giving
there's my cat. The
testimony,
Cardinals are gone.
soliciting testimony of generally good character
Oh,
of the
poor baby.
defendant, such that neither of the two witnesses could possibly imagine a scenario under which what would cause this crime to have occurred, and the state is entitled to confront that evidence in the manner in which the court ruled. But you're arguing 404. I cited that for an additional basis to say the court will need to look at all of that as we proceed with.
Yeah, he said he was
evidence
gonna.
prior bad acts, but the basis.
He admitted it from the get-go before trial
not
started,
404,
and then
but
he's even said
403,
yesterday
opening
he
the
said he'll
door
kind of take it at a
and
moment by moment
responding,
basis.
to the evidence that you adduced.
Yes, sir. I
Like
I
what's
apologize. I
appropriate.
misunderstood.
Yes,
Your Honors,
I did not rule based on U.S. v. Siegel and overruling your objection yesterday.
fair enough. I guess I would ask for clarification of where we go from here. Is your intentions to have a hearing outside the presence of the jury on their proposed 404B evidence?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then I can save all the arguments to them. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And again, with regard to planning purposes for the jury, you set up a witness, whatever can be done without getting into the 404 or the court's need for an in-camera hearing, where we need to dismiss the jury for whatever period of time that might be. We can press on with what you have otherwise at this time.
Yeah,
Whatever that
ish.
is,
I'm
what
East
you'll-
Coast, but near
Sure, Your Honor.
Appalachian
Like I said, we have one
Mountains.
short custodian, and then I think our next witness who's here would be.
I'm in South
somebody
Carolina,
where we would need
just
to
not
question
down
before
where they
the court.
are.
That would be Jeannie Seconder from the law firm. If you give me one moment, I can to confer with my staff, and we can see if we can get some other people rolling so that we can kind of stagger that and continue to have presentations for the jury during the course of the day.
All right.
Jury's probably like, what in the world? Why aren't we being called in? Where did you say that? Okay, you're trying to help explain to me. He's trying to say, since the federal case is, you said something about money to bring it up now would be like a double jeopardy. Because he hasn't been convicted yet. Yeah, I see their point. So can you bring up alleged crimes? The interesting thing, though, is that Russel Laffitte was found guilty of that's one thing I was going to kind of bring up. I'm going to make a separate video, I think, maybe not a live stream, explaining who
Minutes.
the players are, so to speak. People being dismissed, or they're rising for the jury. Russel Laffitte was found guilty on 6 counts of federal criminal charges, one of which is conspiracy to commit fraud, bank fraud, wire fraud, 3 counts of misapplied bank funds. Misapplication of bank funds. I can't read my own writing. So, and I read something too. Oh, where's that article? I think it was on Fitz News. I've clicked on there too many times, so I don't know if I can bring it up. So in November, Russel Laffitte was found guilty of this. Russel Laffitte was the former CEO of Palmetto State Bank, and he was in charge of some accounts and was the conservator of financial accounts from settlements that Alec Murdaugh won for his clients. Alec would tell his clients, especially younger ones, and really anybody, that, hey, this is a lot of money that you just won. There's, a banker or another attorney that I know, because it's Russel Laffitte and someone else named Corey Fleming, his old college roommate, who he would refer his clients to. And they would take control of their accounts. Like, listen, this is going to help you be protected, not misspend your money, especially if they were underage, like a couple of Alec's clients were. They needed a conservator. And sometimes the parents of these clients were unavailable because they were no longer alive because of the accident in which Alec was representing. So had Russel Laffitte conservator of the proceeds of their settlements. And he would loan Alec money from the accounts, from these settlements of these people that he himself, Alec, had represented. And some of the charges that Russell had were basically, in layman's terms, he just had to know of Alec committing a crime and be complicit, like not report it. He just had to know about it, know what was happening, and again, not have done anything about it. And he was found guilty on that. So to me, no legal expert or anything, I'm just trying to use logic and common sense. If Russell was found guilty by a federal court that he knew of a crime, a financial crime Alec was committing, and Russell was found guilty of knowing Alec committed that crime, I would think he could only be found guilty knowing about a crime being committed if the crime was being committed. So that would mean Alec committed the crime. So I know Alec legally hasn't been convicted, but I think it helps this case and the prosecution be able to bring these up, because in a roundabout way, I don't know what's legal, what's allowed, what anything, but to me, it gives even more defense, so to speak, on why prosecution could and should be able to bring this up as a form of motive. But I understand what you're saying. I wonder if you can, again, bring up alleged crimes. I wonder, because you're right, if he's still eventually going to have to be tried for those crimes. So I guess it wouldn't be fair to be tried for that, having it be talked about in another trial when you have not been convicted of such. I don't know. That's a tricky situation. Let me go back and read comments. Yeah, I wonder also if they're going to call back the survivor. Yeah, as a witness, which some people have said, like, why has he been allowed to be in the courtroom if he's a witness? And I don't know about, again, I would keep these little tweets and stuff like that, but there's so dang much. But I believe someone has said in South Carolina you can, or maybe in this county you can. I don't know. Nikki says it's being brought in as a motive and not character. Defense open the door and will lose this appeal. I agree. And that's even what the judge yesterday when they were, what is it called? Cross-examining? Whatever. They were talking to the witness. Then he said something like, can you think of any reason why Alec would have murdered his wife and son? Paraphrasing, but I'm surprised then there's no RICO charges. I have heard that acronym while listening to Murdaugh murders, but I don't really know what that means. Yeah. Yes, it's a long game. It's a huge scam. Huge. Right? If one has knowledge and found accountable, then that reasons that the crime itself does exist. Yeah. I mean, that would be my train of thought. He can be in the courtroom until the direct argument is pertinent to his testimony. I feel like if they're going to call him as like a character witness, or even if they're going to describe that evening, when did your father call you and tell you what happened? He's already heard so many people testify about what happened that night and what they first saw on the scene. And he can probably figure out where people are going. There's been question of his clothes, been question of whether or not kennels, whether or not he took a nap, whether, so he's already heard law enforcement and other people who have arrived on the scene testify. So I don't understand why he's in the courtroom. I don't think he should be allowed. Not yet, not until he testifies, but I'm not in charge of anything. So yeah. Well, but do you guys remember the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial? There was a female witness, and again, I know each state's different, but there was a witness who was going to testify, and the judge asked her on the stand, did you see something on like TikTok or something related to this trial? And she said yes, and she's like, okay, I have to excuse you. So I don't know if it's different rules for each trial, oh, that was my cat or what? I am really sick of rain. We had like 1.5 days of not rain here. And now it's raining again. Me. Yep, that's my cat. I can hear him down there like, well, let me in. He's under a covered porch. So cruel not going down there. He's fine right now. So I wonder, I guess they're going over everything, it sounds like, with 404-567-3209. Virginia is a commonwealth and our laws are wild. Yeah, Virginia's wild. I think federal court laws are stricter. Makes sense. And were they in federal court? Oh my gosh. Johnny Depp and Amber Heard? I mean, I know they were in Virginia, but was it federal? I don't really remember. I'm so confused as why this is not in federal court. Excuse me. Oh, definitely no video. Very hard to directly relay verbatim what happens. It was in civil court. Maybe it's up to the judge, case by case. I don't know. Okay, let me see too if I can pull up some of these home slices. So, oh, and who? Okay, let's get it together. You wrote it down so you wouldn't chase rabbits. 4 people. I don't have it up yet. Let me see if I can. No, don't draw a piece of paper and then hold it up. That's just lame as hell. People to know: Alec Murdaugh, of course, on trial. His friend Russel Laffitte, CEO of Palmetto State Bank, former CEO of Palmetto State Bank. Hey, Christoph Fan always. Corey Fleming, former attorney for South Carolina and Georgia, I believe. And what's the other person's name? Chad Westendorf. These are all people. Russel Laffitte is no longer alleged. He is convicted of 6 counts of, lots of fun federal financial crimes. Corey Fleming, attorney that was in charge of Gloria Satterfield's account. Gloria Satterfield. Yep, the front door. Don't let them pork and beans in, y'all. Gloria Satterfield is the housekeeper of Alec. Chad Westendorf is the one that
Are you ready to proceed?
I believe was in the happy birthday video they played yesterday.
Custodian witness. Then I think we would have to. We are rolling some additional witnesses, but I think at that time we would have to break and do at least the first in-camera witness.
Right.
Again, I think that may for a lot of subsequent things, and then we can have some additional work outside of any 404.
But it was multiple
in the afternoon, Your Honor. But certainly happy to do that.
There were reasons it could have been federal court in South Carolina. Better research and look up what those are.
Alleged bad act.
Yes.
Must be court must be informed.
Way more crazy than that, though.
And addressed separately. Of course, some may be a series of things occurring almost simultaneously, so that may be a different scenario.
So we're going to probably have some hot back and forth.
Proceed with the jury.
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
I believe so. Not insurance money either, because I don't believe they had insurance on them. More like a red herring to distract from what and gain sympathy. Like, oh, no one's going to continue to ask me about the millions of dollars I'm missing at my law firm if they know my wife and child have been murdered. Plus, it's also the sister-in-law and nephew of, one of the attorneys here also. Oh, That would take days. But yes. Yes, it is. Murdaugh Murders Podcast, Mandy Matney. She's also been putting things on YouTube. Her episodes, too.
The jury is present, sir.
All right, thank you. Good morning. Welcome back. Day number 9. State's case, you may call your next witness.
I'm going to mute.
Raise your right hand, left hand on the Bible. You affirm the testimony about the report in this trial shall be the truth, so help you God. Thank you. Please take a seat in the witness stand. State your name again for the record. Spell your last name, please.
She's a Snapchat expert?
My name is Heidi Galore. Last name is spelled Galore.
She ain't got no southern accent, so maybe.
Please call. Good morning. Please call. Where do you work?
Morning. I work for Snap Incorporated.
What are your duties there?
I'm an law enforcement operations lead. So I assist with and help manage a team of folks who respond to law enforcement legal process.
Also, did she report? I'm
Our
not
team,
judging, but I'm
responds to
judging.
Legal process submitted to our company, subpoenas, search warrants, that kind of thing.
All right. So you're in charge of responding to search warrants or subpoenas from law enforcement or other legal entities?
Correct.
And briefly, please, what is Snapchat?
Snapchat, it's an application that was created by Snap Incorporated to help people express themselves. People can connect to their friends, people they know, and I guess you could consider it a social networking type of application.
Is social media another word that could be used for Snapchat?
Yes.
Does it give the ability for individuals to send each other messages?
Yes.
Does it give the ability for individuals to send each other pictures or videos?
Yes.
And in the normal course of its business, does Snapchat keep records if the user so chooses?
Yes.
Christoph, and I put the link, maybe if it goes, for the Murdaugh Murders podcast
that was
in the chat.
sent to and from folks. IP logs, geolocation, depending on the settings of the user.
I'm going to show you what's been
You have an old man crush on the joke.
States
Yeah,
Exhibit,
like you want to adopt him as your
305
grandpa.
And
I
304.
feel that.
I'm gonna ask if you recognize these two items.
I do. Yes.
And what are you holding?
The paper here is the basic subscriber information for the user that was produced in the search warrant.
And what's that CD?
The CD contains the full production of files that was sent to your agency, requested from the search warrant.
All right, and that was a search warrant from SLED
Yes,
that Snapchat responded to?
correct.
Okay. And you said there was subscriber information on that piece of paper, correct?
Yes,
And is that also located on the CD and the digital records?
yes, yes.
And Your Honor, at this time, the state would move.
That's fun. I like when they do that noise. I can't do it.
I'm going to hand you back state's.
Maybe not the scaring and flying over your head, but
And you said, you indicated that was subscriber information, is that correct?
Correct.
And can you read for the jury the subscriber information for the information on the account that you provided in response to the search warrant?
Sure. The username is listed here. The username is listed here as Paul9499. Common spelling for Paul. The email address listed here is paulmurdaugh7845@gmail.com. The account was created on Saturday, May 18th, 2013. And there's a creation IP, but it's not listed here.
I understand
Sometimes it's captured at the time. of
he has
creation of the account.
passed.
This case doesn't seem to be. Phone number listed here is 803-42-7845. Display name is listed as Paul Murdaugh, and the status is active.
And when somebody uses.
But people are going to get these phone numbers. Maybe not the email, but
Verify that number?
I don't know
If
why
the
they're not
user wants to
redacting
verify the
this.
phone number, yes, they can, but it's not required.
Okay. And what about the email? Is that required?
Not required either, no.
All right. I'm going to hand you State's Exhibit 306. This is already in evidence. And I believe this is a CD. Do you recognize that CD?
Yes, I do.
And have you reviewed the contents of that CD?
Yes, I have.
And what is on the contents of that CD?
It's a video of near a tree, and it's a short video with some audio.
Okay. And did that video, was that part of the full search warrant return that we just talked about?
Yes,
All right. And did you take a look at that video and the records contained in the other CD to determine when that video was first uploaded and first sent?
yes,
Okay. Well, first of all, let's talk about the upload. Was it uploaded to something called Memories?
yes.
And can you describe to the jury what is Memories? What does that function with Snapchat?
Memories is kind of like a bucket where you can save your data. You can either create a video or some sort of photo on the app itself and save it to your memory so that it's always there when you need it, or you can upload from your camera, your phone, into Memories to then send to folks later, or just have it in there.
So is that a form of saving, like saving something in the cloud?
Correct, yes, it'll be on the server.
All right. And in reviewing these records, did you determine when this account uploaded that particular video to Memories?
Yes, this video was first seen on Memories on June 7th, 2021 at 7:39 hours
Okay.
Eastern.
And did the Snapchat also keep a record when an individual sends out a communication?
Yes,
And did you determine reviewing the records whether, excuse me, that account sent out that particular video?
yes, it was sent on the same day, June 7th, 2021 at 7:56 hours Eastern time.
All right. Thank you. And I'm going to show you, if you look at your monitor in front of you, and I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 306 and see if you recognize it. And did you recognize that video?
That didn't show up on the,
Oh, I'm sorry. Can we get the, get on the screen? My apologies. Oops. Okay.
I love possums.
What's going on? Try it again. Sorry about that. Can you see the what's on your screen right now?
yes,
All right. I'm gonna play that one more time. Okay. And do you recognize that video, man?
yes, I do.
All right. And is that video the video we just discussed that was part of the Snapchat?
Could she not have said in the beginning, like,
This file was uploaded.
it wasn't
at
playing?
7:39 p.m.
I'm being so
Sent at
judgmental of this
7:56 p.m.
Yes,
sweet person. Such a jerk.
No further questions.
Girl. I'm a military granddaughter, daughter, sister, wife.
We pull up the Snapchat video, just have
Hate
it
mil-
frozen
and I
on.
grew up near a very large Air Force
Screenshot.
base. I can't figure out. I can't figure it out. I told my husband about that on trial yesterday, and he was like, "All you have to do is just." I'm like, "You can say that all you want to. I still can't math."
I think it's plugged into this computer.
Are these really bad lawyers or good?
Oh, that's good.
They're good.
So this is what, or part
In
of
different
what
ways.
Snapchat gave to the state on July 6th, of 2021. Is that correct?
correct.
So the state had this.
His
on
lead
July 6th,
defense
2021,
is
this
a South Carolina
believe so, yes.
representative.
This information. And you testified that this was uploaded at 7:39.
If you're familiar
The 7th.
with Kevin Spacey's, either his character in
that exactly
Midnight in the
when this
Garden,
video
Good and
was
Evil, or
shot?
House of Cards.
I can't tell that.
He's like
information
that.
from the
And his
production.
last name is
Are you certain that's
Herpootlian.
not something that could
Dick
be built
Herpootlian.
from, perhaps the metadata for the video file?
There was no metadata produced for this production. It wasn't requested, so it wasn't produced.
So if someone were to right-click on this video file and where it
That
has
sounds
various metadata that pops up on
horrific.
the screen, would we see a media created date?
I don't know. I
Well,
wouldn't know.
let's see if we would. Court's indulgence for a moment.
I feel bad for this chick. Like, does she have any idea what the hell she just walked into? Into a Southern Gothic trial, my friend. I don't know if you're familiar
You see on the
with
screen,
the dirty,
metadata for this
but
file?
Yes.
And does it say June the 7th, 2021 at 7:38 p.m.?
Yes.
And so this was shot basically a minute before. It was
Same.
uploaded, is that correct?
It appears so, yeah.
And I'm sorry
I
if
think
that
he's still good.
seems picky, but in this case, every minute and every second, can matter.
no worries. She works for
Does,
Snapchat,
keep a list of.
so she's
and
a
I might be
legal
getting the
expert.
terminology wrong, friend contacts that Paul would have had on Snapchat.
Yes.
Was that list produced?
No.
And why was that list not produced?
It wasn't requested in this case.
Because there's
You mentioned earlier.
Alex said he was never down at the kennels that night of the
No,
murders,
it's-
and
Why was
there
that?
is
I don't believe it was requested.
Snapchat videos with Alec in the
Is it
background
possible for,
minutes before
Yeah,
their
I
murders,
don't know how it
and
works.
two
for
witnesses
some or all
have
of Paul's friends to have access
testified
to this
that
location?
that is his voice, and it's two people,
Yes,
one of
if his
which who has
settings were-
known Alex since he
Yeah, if he
was
made his
12 years
settings
old,
visible, his geolocation visible to his friends. Yes.
and he's like in his
And would
20s
that
now,
information about
and
whether
was
that
Paul's
that setting
best
was in
friend,
place
pretty
to
much.
allow that, is that something that Snapchat would have had
it's
available to
evil,
produce?
isn't it?
Uh,
Quite evil.
I'm not sure if I'm not sure about that. If you can see that it's actually turned on or off.
Was that requested?
No.
No further questions, Your Honor.
By the state.
No, no, that's what's it.
All right, thank you.
Thank
May
you.
step down.
Is that all she flew in for? Interesting.
Yes, sir.
The state's next witness would be Jeannie Seconder.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, there are matters that must be addressed outside of your presence. I do not know exactly how long it would take, but I do not like to have jurors sit in jury rooms just for long periods of time. So we're going to excuse you after you speak with the bailiff. We're going to take a recess with the jury while we deal with these matters. Let's see now, y'all have lunch coming at what time?
It's only 10:30, lady.
Nobody
Sir,
knows.
I'm used to say
1:15. Well, we only need you before lunch. So if you'll go to the jury room and wait for further instructions, but we'll be having you all take a break until around that time.
that must be confusing. I don't like having you stay in the jury room for that long, but you're gonna. Nikki says, in my opinion, he allegedly killed Paul because he disgraced the family with the boat crash. Pardon me, charges. An honor killing? That's cute. No, I don't think so. I think he did it purely as a sympathy thing. I kind of thought how Nikki did before, like he was causing too much problems and too much disruption. But I think he just found a possible way to be able to get away with it because so many people were angry at Paul because of the boat crash and Mallory's death. So, again, me not knowing hardly anything about this, my husband, when we saw this come up on the news that Paul and Maggie had been shot, we instantly thought, uh-oh, somebody put the law in their own hands. I thought, actually, I didn't even think it was Mallory's family.
State we call Jeannie Seconder.
I think it could have been Connor or someone related to Connor, which is was Mallory's boyfriend, and Connor is the one that supposedly that everyone in the Murdaugh family was trying to pin the boat crash on, to try to say like he was driving the boat instead of Paul.
State your name again for the record. Spell your last name.
No, you're fine,
My
Christoph.
name is Jeannie Seckinger,
Is the jury back?
Seckinger.
Did I miss something?
Seconder, how you doing today?
I'm good.
Good. Let me fix the Selma real quick. You understand we're here right now outside the presence of the jury for an in-camera hearing to determine the admissibility of some of your testimony.
I do.
Thank you. Appreciate you explaining it to me, sir. That was
Very
just for
quickly,
me.
if you would, give us a little bit. I'm not going to go through all the background that I went in front of the jury.
That death,
unless,
though, is allegedly tied to
you don't have the
Buster,
right, but, give
not
us a little
Paul.
bit about your background and
It's
where you
allegedly
come from,
tied
how
to
that
the
led to
surviving son.
Okay. I graduated with a BS in accounting from USC. Went to work in an accounting firm.
That would
for
be
a few
University of
years,
South
and
Carolina, not the
switched
cool
to
California
industrial
college.
at Westinghouse.
I'm
And
assuming.
in 1999, I came to work at PMPD, which is Peters Murdaugh Parker, as a temporary bookkeeper, and that has grown over the years to the
Oh,
office manager,
shit.
CFO, accountant, anything business and
What?
insurance and HR related.
And that's for whom?
For Peters Murdaugh Parker, Elstroth and Dietrich.
That PMPED,
Correct.
and that's the law firm that
We're about to get the tea.
Correct.
Is it have a different name now?
We are now a new entity that's called Parker Law Group LLP.
All right. So just very quickly.
So that's a law firm that Alec Murdaugh's great-grandfather started, and for whom he worked, and
Okay,
for
so
whom
my-
his brother
My
worked.
financial duties are, actually, I have.
So that's a
people under me
bookkeeper
that do
for
the
that place.
day-to-day processing of checks, but my duties are to balance and reconcile accounts, provide financial statements, help with all tax documents, preparation of taxes. Also.
Oh yes, Christoph.
Prepared anything for any government
Yes.
census or surveys that we needed and anything HR related.
I want to ask you a little bit about the financial structure of how PMPED works, if I could.
I think so too,
Can you
Nikki.
explain that a little bit.
A lot.
People often think of lawyers as partners, but are they called
A
partners
lot.
under the employment agreement that everyone signed?
No, we're called partners when we refer to each other as they're in the business, but for tax purposes, everybody was an owner. It was a C corporation, so everybody's shareholders. And within Peters Murdaugh Parker, every employee was a salaried employee, including the partners.
Okay. And did the employment agreement that everyone signed require that any fees or money generated by any partner or lawyer by the firm had to go to the firm?
It did.
I'm so excited to hear this.
Explain to me how, if you're let's just call them quote partner, if you're a partner, how does the compensation work? What are the elements of compensation as it worked under the PMPED structure back in 2021 prior?
So every partner received a base salary that they would receive in biweekly payments throughout the year. That was set at a level of about $125,000. The majority of their pay came through an end-of-the-year bonus, which is when we closed out the books and settled on the books. And primarily, after overhead and expenses were met, the net profit was divided amongst those partners. And in a simplified form, it was basically distributed based on a ratio of the fees that they brought in percentage to the total.
But that distribution would not take place until when?
Usually the last week of December.
Yes, sir.
Waters, I was distracted. Can you repeat the previous for me?
Yes, sir. Going back in a second, Joe, we were talking a little bit about the compensation structure for PMPED as it existed in 2021. And if you could, again, explain to the court how that worked. How are partners, and we're going to call them loosely that term, how are they compensated?
Okay.
Partners are employed salaries who are paid.
I'm
a
working
biweekly paycheck
As I'm
throughout the
listening,
year
kind of like
with
a
a base salary of $125,000.
A tree.
And at the end of the year, they
people.
received a bonus check,
A
usually
tree
in the last
ball.
week of the year,
inappropriate.
That divided up the remaining profits of the firm based upon the percentage of revenue each attorney brought into the total.
All right. So when fees came in, they're going to be attributed to a particular lawyer.
Books and movies and
Ultimately,
TV
that's gonna be a
shows.
percentage of the
And I'm
total
having a
revenues.
list of
That's gonna
people
determine their percentage of the compensation at the end of the
who's
year
done what?
after all overhead is paid.
Correct.
Is there also some sort of
'Cause I live here.
7.5% fund or fee or something like, or not, or amount that's put aside?
There is, you would take the gross bonuses.
We're
that-
thinking of
or
you,
the gross
Pickle.
fees everybody
Good luck.
brought in, less than overhead. And
Maybe
once
I'll
we
like
get to that
accidentally
number,
fart on camera and
everybody
make
would
you
throw
smile
in
or
a
something.
pot,
Maybe that wouldn't make you smile. I don't know.
7.5%, and that money was divided back
I'm just gonna stop
equally among the
talking.
employees. And then a new percentage was arrived at to determine how much everybody would receive of the net income.
All right. So you have to take care of overhead, right?
Yes.
And what is an overhead, just generally?
Overhead is just basically the expenses to run the business, what it costs us to advance client costs, what it costs to pay our employees, what it costs to rent the building, to provide equipment.
Christoph Fan says prayers, Wicked Pickle.
And that's got to be accounted for.
And
You gotta
Nikki
account for
says,
the
pickle hugs.
7.5% that as well,
I
correct?
have a
That's right.
dirty mind.
All right. And then only after that does each partner get compensation based on their relative contribution during that year.
Correct.
Is typically the vast majority of compensation received by a partner at PMPED received in that distribution at the end of the year?
Yes,
And when does that take place?
the last week of the year, generally speaking.
Okay. And what is the point of that goal? Why do you want to sort of clear out all the money and clear the books?
So basically, that we don't want to leave the money in there to be taxed by the corporation because it's a C Corp entity. So that the objective is to get it out to the partners and avoid double taxation.
And so because of that, is it up to each individual partner to essentially manage the bulk of their compensation that's received in one lump sum during the course of the next year?
Yes, they need a budget.
All right, let me show you what's been marked for purposes of this hearing as States 310 and see if you recognize that document.
Yes, this is the employment agreement each shareholder/partner would have signed.
Okay. And I just want to direct your attention to number
The shit
2,
this lady must know.
If you could tell the court what that provision is signed by all the partners said.
The shit she must know.
It says the employee accepts such employment and agrees that the employee will devote the employee's entire time and endeavor to the employer's business.
And then number 3, if you could read that to the court, please.
Services for the benefit of the employer. All professional services rendered by the employer shall be rendered as an employee of the employer, and all proceeds and remuneration received therefore shall inure to the employer's benefit.
Okay. Now tell me what that means.
That means that all fees earned.
Yes,
should
please.
come through payable to PMPD.
All right. And so if a lawyer earns fees, is it appropriate at all for those fees to go directly to the lawyer as opposed to going through the law firm?
No,
Nope.
Is that a hard rule to understand?
no,
Anybody ever have a problem with that rule or not understand it?
no,
Pretty easy and hard and fast.
Yeah,
rule.
Alec did.
that's right.
If you get the money written straight to you, what is that?
The money's taken straight to you,
Yeah,
that would be stealing it.
stealing.
Ooh, she pissed.
Please, could y'all turn the screen to me?
And this is stealing it from people who have gone through
So,
horrific accidents. This is the children
is that better?
of the
Can you see
mother
that, Ms. Seconder?
Yes,
All right, so
Who
2 and
died
3 are the provisions
because
you
they
were just
fell
referring to?
that's
at the
correct.
Murdaugh house and she had worked for them for years, taking money from them, taking money from teenagers whose mother and son passed in a horrific car
Tell me
accident
just
that
a
they
little bit
themselves were in
of
as well,
your how long have you known Alec Murdaugh? Let me ask you.
from a
I've known
man
Alex since I was in high school, so roughly 40
who
years.
was in a car accident
And how long have you worked with him, or did you work with him?
About 20
and became a
since
quadriplegic,
1999.
And
stealing
did he have
money
lucrative
from
practice
them.
in your observation?
Yes, he did well.
Was he sometimes getting as much as 7 figures in the end of the year?
He has.
So he had enough, more than enough.
Are you familiar with what's been
Nothing
called the
wrong
boat
with having
case?
money, but
Yes.
there's nothing wrong with
And tell
being
me
a
what your
greedy
understanding of the boat
motherfucker.
case is, just generally. What was that?
This shit
Um,
pisses me off.
Generally speaking, it was an accident that several children got in one evening where it was in Paul's or the Murdaugh's boat. Paul was accused as the driver, and there were a lot of civil suits and some criminal proceedings going on related to that crime.
And following the boat case,
And a lot of this
is it your
money
understanding
was
that,
stolen before the
Paul
boat
Murdaugh was
crash.
charged?
Yes,
Is it your understanding that Alec Murdaugh was civilly sued?
yes,
And there was ongoing civil litigation at the time Paul and Maggie were murdered?
that's correct.
After the boat case happened, did you and Alec ever have any discussions about structuring fees?
We did.
Yeah.
in
It's bad.
late May of
Disgusting
2020.
Piece of poo poo.
2021. Right about the end of the month, we had some discussions about Hirschberger. A disbursement came through that he had tried to send his fees to a structured settlement. And the conversation was that he had done it improperly, because to structure fees properly, it has to be part of the release. It has to go straight from the insurance company, straight to the insurance structured annuity place. And we would need to be told about it in our firm so we could account for it in our 7.5%. But in this particular case, Alec had sent the money directly to Forge. We discussed the fact that it would not be any tax benefit to him. And at that point in time, he said he was not really
One second.
worried about the tax benefit of it. And he said he was trying to put some money in Maggie's name due to the boat wreck, and that he was trying to figure out if he was going to structure fees for the future.
Okay. Did he say he was trying to do a favor for anyone?
He did say he was friends with Michael Gunn, and who is the owner or one of the operators of Forge, and that he was going to try up to about
Which was a
$50,000 into a structure as a favor for Michael Gunn.
Right, when you say Forge, what are you talking about?
Fake account.
So Forge is a company that does structured annuities,
You know the full name real quick?
it's Forge Consulting,
All right, let's call it Forge Consulting.
okay? Forge
Try to do that.
Consulting.
All right.
Yeah, because they called a bank account
They're a company
forge.
that will do structured annuities for clients. They'll do structured fees for attorneys. They do some wealth management. They do minor pool trust. They have several different things that they do. I think they've branched out into insurance coverage now. They provide a lot of financial tools.
So there was a name of a bank account called. That's why it was easy for them to put
Say that you,
funds in it, because people assumed it
had a
was this
conversation with him
wealth
about
company
him supposed
when
to
it was
structure
really
fees.
just
How
a
did
bank
this come to your
account called
attention?
Forge.
It came to my attention over the fact that a disbursement, one of my secretaries or my brought to me, that had been brought to her attention by Alec's secretary or paralegal Annette Griswold, and came and asked me if this was proper, and then came to me after the fact, and that's when I went and had conversations with Alec about this.
Okay. And so had the money already been paid?
Yes,
And you went to Alec and you asked, what's this about?
yes.
And he said, I'm doing what?
I'm just trying to defer and put money into Maggie's name, structure some fees.
Did he tell you where that money had gone? What was your belief where that money had gone after you talked to Alec?
My belief was it had gone to Forge Consulting.
The real entity, Forge
Yes.
Consulting.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to show you just real quick what's been marked for purposes of this hearing as States 311 and see if you recognize that series. I think there's 4 documents in there.
Yes, these are the Hirschberger.
I guess this is what my channel's going to be for
settlement
now.
Documents, which is the case that we're talking about, the fee that he sent as a structure.
Okay.
I don't know if you mean the events after the boat crash.
There are ultimately
Christoph?
2. There's one that's structured to look like fee, and then the other one was.
But
structured
events
to look like
after,
it was clients' money.
definitely,
that was being sent
there were
on clients'
attempts.
behalf.
Which
To
one were you aware
sabotage.
of at the time?
I was aware of the fee one for the $83,333.33.
All right. At the time, did you think that any money had been misappropriated or stolen, or did you just think Alec was trying to sort of divert some money because of the boat case, but not necessarily anything misappropriated?
Right, we were not thinking about him misappropriating funds or stealing any client funds. What we were concerned about was he was trying to either defer income by leaving it in somebody's trust or either trying to put some money into Maggie's name to avoid things for the boat accident.
When you say we were concerned, who's concerned?
Which would be
Myself and
bad.
some of the partners.
Why are y'all concerned about him potentially trying to put money in a structure or in Maggie's name because of the boat case?
Well, because would be wrong and we did not want any part of that.
She looks pissed. She's not even afraid to look that way, mother. So basically, the boat crash, the victims were suing Alec along with other companies. And during that time of the boat crash, they were selling things, or Alec was, and to try to cover, pay back some of the money he had stolen from other places
recognize this
and to
document
cover
right here?
things from the boat crash. He
Excuse me. Yes, that's
wanted
the
to have
document that was
assets
in
that
question
the
with the
family didn't know about, so they couldn't take it.
$33 fee
That's why that's a big deal.
sent to Forge.
All right. And
So he's hiding money,
right there, and tell
basically.
me what this disbursement sheet is very quickly. Explain that to the court.
So this is where the client recovered $250,000. You can see it came from 3 different insurers. And we would take a portion of our fee. Generally, this looks like a third. And our expenses of $9,300. The Sedgwick claims would have been a lien that we were paying off. And then the $140,678.55 would have been the money dispersed between the beneficiaries of that estate.
What is this line right here?
That would represent the fee.
At this point in time, had you actually seen the check that was made out for those fees?
I don't recall if I actually looked at it at that point in time.
And normally fees, where would they go?
Normally, if fees would come to us and we would deposit into our income account, what we call our income account.
Okay. So fees come in from somebody who pays the settlement. Where do they go initially? What account do they go in?
To the income account, the PMPD operating income account.
Okay. Fees go in there?
Yes,
All right. When a settlement comes in, where does it go?
it goes into a client trust account for the benefit of the client,
And then the portion of that is allocated for fees, it goes from the trust account to where?
to the income account.
Okay. It usually doesn't go out to Forge Consulting.
Not directly to an attorney.
After you had that conversation with Alec, at that time, did you follow up any more on the matter?
We had a couple of conversations about it in relation to when we were having some other conversations, but we didn't really readdress this again until late August, early September.
Did you kind of put it on the back burner?
I did. I was, at that point, it had been done and I was trying to figure out how we were going to account for it on our books and just kind of had it out there as a reminder to try to put in my mind later to see if anything else had been done like that or to see if he was going to try to do that again.
She was watching you, boo.
So that was in late May sometime?
You're right.
Did another matter come to your attention about disbursements as it related to Alec Murdaugh's practice of his business?
It did.
And tell me what that was, please.
So this was a case called the Ferris versus Mack truck case. And on a Monday, I believe it was May 24th, Annette Griswold called me and said that she had something she needed to discuss with me. I was out of the office that day in our Waldeboro office, but when I returned, we met. And when she showed me, what had happened was we received a check for our client expenses. So this case was actually dispersed by the associated attorney, which was Chris Wilson. So he sent us a check for the money that we had forwarded as client expenses, but we did not receive a fee check. And that in itself is odd generally.
And why is that odd? Why didn't that call you? Because y'all had received a fee check from Alex's best friend, Chris Wilson, but not the, the expense check, but not the fee check.
Right. Most of the time we receive them together. Well, Annette, when she did not receive them together, called my assistant Nicole to make sure we had not already received the fee, verified that we had not already received the fee. And at that point, Annette had some conversations with Vicki Lyman in Chris's office. And Vicki informed Chris that their bosses had already got the fee when the settlement was signed, which had happened in March. And this was May.
And Vicki informed Chris or Vicki informed Annette?
Vicki informed Annette of that.
So why is that a concern to you that now you're hearing the fee's already been paid?
Because now we know we don't have the check. We've never received it. So either he's got a fee, either he's got a check he hasn't turned into us that is properly payable to PMPED, or he's received a check payable to him.
Right. And when you were considering the possibility that he perhaps received a check payable to him, aside from that being stealing, as you earlier testified to it, what's your concern then?
Saying that he's trying to hide money from the boat wreck.
Right. All right. Stand by.
I think it will last at least 2 more weeks. Definitely 1 more. Potentially 2 more. And I so desperately want to go down there because, again, I've been following this for a few years, and things that have been uncovered and will continue to be uncovered. It's not just this family. It's like people attached to our South Carolinian government.
Yes, this is the expense check that we received.
I'll kind of
in
feel like a
Ferris matter
freaking media whore or something if I go down
from
there,
Wilson Law Group.
Just quick flip through it and just tell me generally what's in that packet.
but I really want to. But I don't know if that's
The rest of the packet is
Too weird,
our
'cause I'm not
deposit, which is an internal record, our
connected to it,
client cost report, which matches.
other than
that
being a South
expense
Carolina
check.
resident.
Then the rest of it, the second, what I'm looking at right now is a check made payable to Richard Alexander Murdaugh Esquire for $192,000.
I don't think he has any money
that
to-
references Ferris fees.
To buy his way out of it.
Keep going.
Because money's
Next
all
page
gone.
is the deposit where it says Bank of America deposit only. And
I
it
think
looks
had
like
the other
ACH
judge
that looks like
Duffy
it's
Stone,
actually
I
looks
believe,
to me like Alex initials,
not
and then
recused
it says
themselves,
Bank of America.
he may have been able to
There a series of
influence his way
emails
out of
after
this.
that?
Series of emails starts with Vicki Lyman informing Annette Griswold about the fact that their bosses had received the fee back when the disbursement was signed.
All right, let me put those emails up on the screen. I believe there's no objection.
And I think there's still a chance that he could be seen as guilty. I mean, as innocent.
So
It's a very
this is,
small place.
Email and Annette Griswold,
Still has
explain to,
influence
the
whether or
judge
not
who
he has
Annette
money.
Griswold is, please.
Annette Griswold is one of Alex's primary paralegals.
Okay. And
The people on
right
the
here,
trial
This is an email that was ultimately
are
sent to you
local
as
residents.
Part of bringing this to your attention.
Yes.
All right. And what is she asking right there?
She said, why just expenses and no fee?
All right. All right. And what was the response there?
Dear friend, it is only cost because your boss and mine and Liz's got their fees once they were signed.
Okay. So, and that's informing you that Chris Wilson's office says they already got the fees.
Correct.
All right. After that, did you have a conversation with Annette what to do?
I did. I actually talked with Lee Cope. went to Lee. Sometimes a lot of the partners are not in the office, and Lee Cope was the one who was in the office. So I went to talk to Lee about what we should do. And of course, Annette was worried about getting, ramifications if she was wrong and didn't want to be in trouble. So Lee and I decided to take it over from there. The course of action that we decided upon was that I would send an email to Annette requesting the disbursement, the supporting documents.
You
and the
would?
General ledger printout.
I don't want to
Chris
be on
Wilson's
national
office,
TV.
Which is what we keep in our office.
All right, and if we go right here, is that the email you're speaking of right there?
That is.
All right,
And
let's
I
see
don't
that.
want people around here
927.
seeing me either.
All right, and so then what happens to that email from there if we look?
Otherwise, I probably would.
So apparently Vicky in Chris Wilson's office was on vacation. So on June 2nd, Annette clarifies with Vicky what exactly we were looking for. And again, she asked for the full disbursement paperwork, including the disbursement sheets, expenses, supporting docs, and ledger.
All right, and you're included on that email?
I am CC'd, yes.
Okay. All right, did y'all ultimately get a response on that?
Vicky responded that she would have to send that email to Chris because she did not have privy information. So that was on the 2nd. The next day, Elliot came into my office early and asked me why I needed that information and assured me that the money was in Chris Wilson's account and that they could get it anytime.
Okay. And did y'all discuss anything further when you had that conversation?
Just that we needed to get it, or I needed proof that it was there, that it was necessary to get it. At that point, I didn't indicate to him that I thought it was missing. I was just asking for the documentation.
And that was on what day?
It was sometime in between June 2nd and June 7th.
Okay. All right, on June 7th, did the issue come back to a head?
The issue did come back to heads.
Just clear, this is June 7th, 2021.
Yes,
And how much were these fees supposed to be, did you know?
$792,000 in total.
And to this point, the firm had not received those fees, is that correct?
That's correct.
Chris Wilson's office is saying initially.
I feel like she is so pissed.
Yes.
Because this could be put her
Chris
job.
Wilson's not saying anything to me.
Was, to your knowledge, was an inquiry made to Chris Wilson at that time?
Lee Cope, we had not inquired Chris Wilson other than requesting this information at this point in time.
Who is Chris Wilson?
How does that go?
So on June 7th, I was going to make another run at finding out from Elliot if we had the information. I went upstairs to his office is on the
Let me
second
mute.
floor, and he was leaning on a file cabinet outside of his office. And he turned and looked at me when I came up and said, "What do you need now?" And gave me a very
Oh, where's your mother?
dirty look, not a look that I'd ever received from Elliot, from just kind of frustrated with me look, which made me go, "Oh, you want to know? Let's go in your office." So we went in the office and closed the door. And at that point, I told him that I had reason to believe that he had received the funds himself and that I needed proof that he had not.
Received those fees himself,
Yes,
and I needed proof that they were not.
yes.
What did he tell you?
The
He told
gall.
me again, that he assured me that the money was there and that he could get it. And at that point, I said, I'm just trying to do my job. And if I don't get this paperwork and verify that with these questions, I'm not doing my job. He actually acted like he respected that, and again said that that money was there and that he again was trying to decide what he was going to be doing with it.
And did y'all get to conclude that conversation, or just something interrupted?
We did not. He took a phone call in the middle of that conversation.
Of course he did.
That phone call was about his father who was in the hospital, that he was going to be terminal, that there was nothing else they'd be able to do for his father.
Okay, now I sound like a
That
dick.
changed the mood of the conversation. We quit talking about business, and I immediately asked about him and his family and his dad. And, we got talking as friends at that point, concern over the family. And after that, I shortly left. So it briefed and cut down the conversation.
So see, something tragic that
You come in
happened
there asking for proof.
derailed the
where that money
conversation.
was, because you had reason to believe he took it, and then the conversation ultimately got short by the call about his father.
Yes,
Did you have a
Oh,
conversation
wow.
later in the day with Ellen?
That
I
shit was
did.
crazy.
Around 4:00, my phone rang, and
tragic.
I remember that because I had been under the impression Elliot was going to leave and go to the hospital or leave to deal with his father. And around 4 o'clock, my office extension rang. And at that point, he was asking me for some information on his 401k balances because he stated he was working on some financials for the hearing on the boat accident that was later in the week.
There was a hearing later in the week, and he was working on financials for the boat accident.
Correct.
What day was
That's
this?
right, he was odd.
That he called and asked me. No, he'd asked me before. So, and I would be the one to give him the 401k. So it didn't surprise me that he was calling and asking about that. But I was surprised that he was in the building working on it.
And why was that?
I just thought he was leaving a deal with his father.
Because that interrupts the prior conversation.
That's right.
Huh.
Is that the last conversation you had with him?
It is.
When did you find out about the murders?
I initially found out through the rumor mill around 10:30 or 11 o'clock the evening of them, but I did not get confirmation until I received a text from the partner roughly 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Were you shocked by that?
Yes.
So she's the one who confronted him that day of the
Yes.
murders.
Worried for Alec?
Worried for everybody. Yes, especially Ellie.
In the wake of the murders,
This
do
is
you know if the hearing that was later that week got canceled?
It did get canceled.
That was a vote case where he's personally a defendant?
That's my understanding, yes.
In the wake of the vote case, did you and the partners have a discussion about what to do about getting to the bottom of these Ferris fees?
We did. We did not the week of the murders because pretty much our office shut down the week of the murders and then his father also passing away. But when we got back around to it, Lee and Mark Ball and I were the ones doing the discussion. Lee decided that he would call Chris Wilson himself directly and try to get the information, and Lee took over from there.
In the wake of the murders, did anyone want to bring that up to Alec again?
No, nobody wanted, Alec was distraught and upset and not in the office much, and nobody wanted to ask him about
convenient, right?
nothing that we thought was really missing. We had.
I didn't
several
know
months
there was
till
a
the end
hearing
of
for the
year
boat
to clear
crash
it
a
up,
week.
So we were not going to harass him at that point in time.
After either. Even more motive.
So that part just got stopped in its tracks. Is that true?
Yes, Lee took over calling Chris Wilson and trying to pursue it.
All right. And when was that? You said in July sometime?
Yes, probably early July.
All right. And what was the result of that?
Lee said, and you could speak to him more clearly, but Lee said Chris Wilson got off the phone pretty quick with him, which was surprising because apparently Chris Wilson has the gift of gab. But again, Chris assured Lee that it was there.
All right. Ultimately, did y'all get an email about this particular issue?
We did ultimately on July 19th.
Gonna have to add
there was
another
an
person to
email
my
from
list.
Chris to Alec
People do explain.
stating that the money was in Chris Wilson's trust and would have been available anytime that we requested it. That email was forwarded to Lee Cope and myself
From whom?
from Alec.
And what is that the email up on the screen that you're talking about right now?
It is.
All right. And we see 600,000 for Andrew Ferris and 192 for Denise. Explain that breakdown, if you would, please.
So there's two parties in this case, and apparently there was 2 recoveries, and each of them would have had a fee dependent upon their recovery. So to me, this looks like Andrew's portion, the fee for his settlement was 600,000, and Denise's was 192,000.
At this point in time, had the firm received this $792,000?
No,
I know, right, Nikki? But yes, I believe he passed it from natural causes. He was
yes.
pretty sick before all this
let's
as
move
well.
the story forward again. Did this matter ever come to your attention
But-
again at a later time?
Yes.
All right. And tell me when.
I understand
That
thinking
would have
that
been
way
in
for sure.
September, after we found some other misappropriations and we had confronted Alec and he had resigned, we ended up having more conversations with Chris Wilson right after that, and Chris.
September.
admitted that he
Isn't
did not
that
have all the money.
when
Let me back it up.
He shot
Before we get to
himself?
there, I'm talking about as far as it relates to Alec. Did this particular issue with trying to get the Ferris fees come to your attention? And let me take you to early September of 2021.
No, not that I recall.
Okay. In early September 2021, did the Hirschberger matter that you mentioned earlier, did that come back to you?
That came back to my attention. I started pursuing that and decided I was going to go through and look and make sure that he had not tried to already defer something else that we had missed. And at that point, I decided to print a ledger printout of our system of payments to Forge. And as I did that, I started printing all the documents that would relate to those disbursements, the disbursement statements and the canceled checks. And as I started printing the canceled checks off, I could see Bank of America on the back and Alec Murdaugh's signature. And everyone that came out
Wow.
was just put it a little bit more in the grave for me. That's when I found that out. I had William Barnes come over, who was a partner who was in there in the office that day, and had him look at them.
I wouldn't
He
be able to
also
look
looked
at her.
at
Like if I
more
had done that, I wouldn't be able to
Alec's
sit there and stare
signatures
at
on the
her.
back of these checks.
I'd be hanging my head.
Checks coming from the client trust account,
Yes,
and they're made out to what?
Forge.
But what's unusual to you that's causing you to have that feeling that you just described?
The endorsement and the Bank of America on the back, and the fact that it looked like Alec's signature.
All right, and so you talked to William Barnes, is that right?
Yes.
Because they just
And,
named
talk
an
to other
account
partners about what you
Forge.
were
It's
finding?
not
We
the
did.
Forge Consulting.
William and I then called Mark Ball, who had been aware of this situation the whole
He
time.
did that to make it
Mark
look like
Ball
it
the
was Forge
treasurer.
Consulting.
So he came back into the office. We showed him the signatures. He agreed with us, and he also recognized one of the disbursements as a case that could not have possibly been dispersed yet because it was held up waiting some court orders for a workers' comp lien.
Mm.
We also talked to Lee Cope that night about it, and Lee, we came to the plan for Lee to call Michael Gunn with Forge and see if they had banked at Bank of America. And they had, Michael Gunn confirmed that they had not banked at Bank of America in a number of years.
Did y'all send them a list of clients, the ones that you were pulling off of your system that had payments to Forge at Bank of America?
Again,
We did.
September
We
is
gave them
interesting.
A few names that evening, not the complete list. We gave him a few names that we had, and he verified that those Michael Gunn verified to Lee Cope that those were not any structures or any annuities, and they didn't have records of them.
All right, around this time, did Annette bring you anything, and that this is all going on?
Yes, so this is completely independent and coincidental. Annette, the same afternoon of September 2nd, was in his office trying to look for something. And when she moved to file, a check fell out. When the check fell out, she looked down. It was
Wow.
Chris Wilson, and it was the $225,000 check payable to Richard Alexander Murdaugh that we'd already found.
What
And
a
I'm gonna show you what's been marked as
dick.
Exhibit 313, states for purposes of this hearing, you recognize that.
That's the check.
This is the actual check that was found, is that right?
That's correct.
Real quick. Got an endorsement on the back. Let me ask you this, you've worked with Alec Murdaugh for how long?
23 years roughly.
During that
So
time,
September 4th is
right?
when
Yes.
Alec was allegedly
Recognize it,
shot.
you see it?
And she's
Yes.
saying these things were found
Handwriting,
on
the endorsement
September
the back of that
2nd, I
document,
believe.
do you recognize it?
That's his signature. in
This is
handwriting.
writing?
Which Christoph, if you still here, he tried to hire someone to shoot him. He's claiming that he wanted him to help him commit suicide so that his surviving son could get life insurance. I'm saying he was trying to do that so that he could blame Maggie and Paul's murders on this guy. Further the setup for everything. Where is his name? Which again, Alec's 911 call says nothing of the sort. He says he was changing a flat
Right, if
tire
you'll
on
just
the
give me
side
1
of the
second, I'll
road,
hand,
and someone
the exhibits we're talking
came out of
about
the
up to
woods and
court
shot him.
as well. But up on the screen, is this the check?
Yes. Yes.
And then on the back, whose writing is that?
Alex.
Curtis Smith is the name of the man he called. And when he called Curtis Smith, he didn't say anything about getting
Once
him to
we-
assist him
once
in
you
taking his
started
life,
printing
he
out
just
all
called
those
him and said,
forged
I need you to come.
ones that
I
had
need
Alex's
help.
writing on it in Bank of America, and you contacted Forge. Did you
It's-
ask them
it's
whether or
just
not they ever
disgusting,
banked,
man. It's all-
real Forge, if they ever banked at Bank of America?
Lee Cope had that conversation and Michael Gunn verified that they had not.
Does
been there in
it?
a number of years, more than 10 years.
And they didn't have any active structures on any of
I
the
mean, at this
devices
point,
charged.
throw some of that into
As a result of
nudity.
that,
Sure, some of that happens somewhere.
did The
This is
leadership
a
at the
shit
firm
show.
do next.
We convened a meeting on the morning of Friday, September 3rd at Lee Cope's house with the majority of the partners and myself present. We discussed what we had found and showed everybody the documentation that we had recovered.
So they had a meeting
And
September
then the
3rd.
choice was made, Randy was not present initially. The choice was made to bring Randy in and show him.
Randy
what
is
we
his
had
brother, Alex's brother.
And after Randy was brought in and showed what was found, what happened next?
found.
And an
Randy
attorney
immediately
at this law firm.
conceded that we needed to talk to Alec, that it looked like he had stolen. And Danny and Randy got together and met with Alec outside of the office.
And did they confront him with this information?
They
On
did,
September
and
3rd.
It's my understanding that Alec admitted it and that it was determined he would resign.
Did he ask for a leave of absence?
I think he tried to do a few other things before resigning, but we made him resign.
Good for you guys.
After.
I see article. That's his
decision was
brother
made to
right there,
resign, was it
Randy,
announced right away, or was there any statement put out? or anything like
who they're
that right
referring
away?
to.
It was not announced right away because the decision was made, Johnny Parker was getting married the next day, and it was late on a Friday, and that we were going to kind of hold off until the first of the week. We were going to contact some ethics attorneys and see what we needed to do and announce it the first of the week.
I'm going to be right.
So we're in the weekend, September 3rd, September 4th, something like that?
Yes,
Is that Labor Day weekend?
yes.
What's the next thing you recall hearing about Ellen?
The next thing I heard about Alec was, I was actually with my family on the sandbar, and the next thing I heard was Suzanne Peoples with the EMS came down and told me that Alec had been shot in the head and was being flown out to Savannah.
Was that on the side of the road at Old Salcahatchee?
That's correct.
What's the first thing you thought when you heard he had been shot?
You know, nobody knew what to think. A lot of thoughts went through, but fear went through. Was this retaliation? Was he involved in something bigger that was going to get more of us in trouble? And just fear.
All right. As the months went on after that, did y'all continue to review your records looking for additional misappropriations?
We did. We immediately decided, once we found this out on September 2nd and had the confrontation on the 3rd, we immediately started doing a dig into our books and proactively going to look for anything. And anything that we found, we turned over to law enforcement. We also had a forensic audit from an outside firm come in and provided information from them. So this took most of September, gathering all this information and going through all of our stuff to figure out what else we had missed or what else had occurred.
You've already described the checks to the Forge account in Bank of America, which was a fake Forge account. Is that correct?
That's right.
Was there another manner in which Alec Murdaugh had misappropriated money that you uncovered in your review of the firm's records as CFO?
Yes, we've also found out some payments made through Palmetto State Bank.
Okay. And generally explain how those were working.
So those were working on, some of those Russel Laffitte was the conservator on, and funds were directed to Palmetto State Bank as if they were going to be held for the beneficiary. And those checks were later converted into personal use for Alec.
All right.
And incidentally, the week after we, of the roadside shooting, when we were going through stuff in Alec's office, we actually found Forge, R. Alexander Murdaugh, doing business at Forge bank statements in his office.
Okay. so you found the Bank of America bank statements?
Yes.
And the title on those bank statements was what?
R. Alexander Murdaugh, doing business as Forge.
I'm gonna, get a document marked, if I could, real quick. Do the, client trust account checks, are they?
Green,
All right, and the, operating checks, are they a different color?
blue.
So I wonder if they,
For this hearing, this will be the spreadsheet that's in one of the folders in the packet I just gave you.
if they allow
The,
into the
top-
trial, she's going to have to
2618.
say everything all over
I'm
again.
gonna show you, what's been marked as
Or if
State
they're
Street
recording
14 for
this
hearing See
and,
if you recognize that document.
Yes, this is a spreadsheet that we've developed of.
Gonna
the
just
money
play it?
And the clients
I wonder what
that
happens.
had money.
Literally eating
stolen using the Forge payment method.
All right, and by the forged payment method, you mean what?
Basically checks payable to Forge that looked like they were going to be for a structured annuity on the behalf of the client.
All right, and again, for the purposes of this hearing, in preparing that chart, you've been keeping a chart and keeping these records, is that correct?
That's right.
Is this all the misappropriations, or is this focused just on some for purposes of a particular category?
This is just for purposes of this particular category.
And what category is that again?
Forge.
All right. All right, I'm going to put this up on the screen. And just real quick, if you could,
By the way,
Paul,
everyone
tell
around
me,
here
what
is
the
like
various
watching
categories
this,
represent.
watching this at work, listening to it.
Excuse me. The categories.
People at my
if you
husband's
see
office are watching this.
The column with category Forge payment, those would be where checks were actually written to Forge as if those were the beneficiaries' proceeds that were being sent for a structured annuity.
Okay.
The next line where it says Barrett Boulware took insurance proceeds, this is actually a check that was payable to Barrett Boulware from Southern Fidelity Insurance. And Alec actually endorsed that check. He had power of attorney on that file. He actually endorsed that check, and later we were able to trace it into his personal accounts.
All right.
If you keep going down, the majority of these are forged payment. If you get to
Why aren't you
Dion
crying now,
Martin,
fucker?
The first line says fake.
Just real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Just going across though, we've got the client, we've got the civil action number, we've got the category that you were just describing. We got the date the trust was funded, and then we have the amount. Is that
That's
correct?
right.
And the date the trust was funded, what does that category refer to?
That refers to when we found out and did the deep dive into exactly what had happened on each file and deposited the money back immediately into our client trust. So that's the firm actually, as we found these, put money in client trust. We then met with all the clients, reestablished what the correct disbursements should have been, and returned all funds to the clients.
So the firm had to pay the money.
Wow.
back, which you
Well, good
determined
on
is one of
the-
these cases
good on
that
the
had Murdaugh misappropriated
firm,
from
though.
Fake forge on this list.
We did.
I feel like to strangle him. I would too. I don't even know him and I want to, but actually I'm afraid of him, so no.
What's the total amount on this sheet?
$2,841,512.55.
And again, does this represent everything or just a particular category?
Just a particular category.
Not all the money, not all of it, just
Just
one
real quick, I
instance.
see that says 129.11 for Thomas Moore. Is that supposed to be 21?
Yes. And that would be the date and the check number of the check that was taken.
I'm gonna hand Exhibit 314 up to you. And if you could correct that with my pen here and then just put your initials next to it, please.
Again, these are victims. I just want to re-emphasize, these are victims of people who have had either family members pass.
Going back
The
to
people they
Exhibit 314,
represented
if we
are
look
their family
at
members who
all
passed.
the
They have been horribly
check
injured.
dates on here,
This is
we
the
have
money that
the
they have
earliest
because they
one being
can't take
about
care of
August
themselves
2015.
anymore.
Is
So
that
it's
correct?
money
That's
to
right.
keep them
And then it
alive.
continues all the way up to early
This is what this
2021. Is that correct?
bitch
That's
ass
correct.
motherfucker stole. And sat there and looked these people in the eye and like, we're gonna take care of you. We're like family, you know. Let me tell you about Corey Fleming and Russel Laffitte, and they're gonna look out for you. And is mm, 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 mm. And you know, the legal world is incredibly difficult to understand.
Along with your spreadsheet.
So who would know any
that's just
better?
marked,
I
we
wouldn't.
also prepared some supporting documentation for each one of those transactions of misappropriation that you've identified.
Yes.
I
we
do
have.
now, though.
And these are from the records and your investigation into the records at the firm.
That's correct.
And each one of these has the firm had to make the clients whole because of the defendant's misappropriation.
We did.
All right, I'm going to show you what's been marked as 315, and this is a particular case is Elise Mallory. And just as an example, and see if you recognize that document.
Indeed, this first document is the disbursement, which would have been drafted at the end of the case that states the recovery, expenses, fees, and payments to clients.
I'm gonna look that up.
Actually had a payment to forge, so I have a copy of that canceled check. And then the third and fourth pages are where we did our correcting disbursements with footnotes about what had happened and explained everything to our clients when we reimbursed them.
Okay. Let's put that up on the screen real quick. And are there similar documents, supporting documents for each one of these transactions that's on your spreadsheet?
There is.
So this is a disbursement sheet, is that right?
That's correct.
And I didn't ask you, but very quickly, tell me what a disbursement sheet is and how they're supposed to work.
So disbursement sheet just shows at the conclusion of a case, once the recovery, it will show the recovery amount, list out the fees that were sent to the attorneys, shows fee splits if there's multiple attorneys, shows the amount of expenses we collect back, any liens or loans that were payable that were in the scope of that case, and then the final amount would be the payment to the client or the client's beneficiaries if they had beneficiaries.
All right. And then down here at the bottom of this particular one, do you recognize that signature?
Yes, that's Alex.
Okay. And going to the second page, what is this right here?
That is a copy of the check that was payable to Forge that you saw on the bottom line of the disbursement, as well as the back of it showing the endorsement.
All right. And is that the real Forge or the fake Forge?
That's the fake Forge.
All right. And then what is this document right here?
This is the correcting disbursement. The yellow totals would signify what the correct amount should have been and the corrections that would needed to have been made.
All right. Going back to this first page, in this particular one, how much was the recovery? You see that?
$183,528.
All right. And then was there an attorney fee taken?
I can't
from
find
the
anything. It's just coming up
There was an
as
attorney fee taken in this case.
Mallory
it was
Beach.
$30,000, which was a reduced fee. We generally get a third or 40%, but there are instances where the attorney will reduce their fee for some reasons.
And do you know why? Who requested the fees be reduced in this case?
That would be Alec would have done that.
Alec did that, and so but those fees got paid to the firm from that recovery, correct?
They did.
All right, great. So the rest of that money went to the client, didn't it?
It did not. It actually went to the fake Forge account where Alec stole the money from the client.
how nice of a man. I'll
Everybody
reduce my
152,
attorney's fees so you get
866.
more of the settlement. Just kidding. I'm going to take it
One
all.
dime until y'all had to make it right.
That's right.
And that's similar to the rest of the examples we have.
It's exactly like the rest.
Been
I
going
feel
on
like the
for
dates
years.
lining up for
Yes.
all of this, like that she confronted him first. or second, actually, the day of the murders of Paul and Maggie, and the fact that
Documentation like
she
that
was
for
there
each
to
one of
witness a
these, and they're
phone
in the
call
packet up there. I'm happy
about
to
his
go through
father's
all
death,
those,
but then he still stayed
with the
behind to
witness.
work.
I don't want to sell myself short if I need to. I don't know.
And then
if
the
point for purposes of your
date,
honor
September
is made,
3rd,
or if you would like me to go through each one
of confronting
those.
him and having him resign.
I'm happy to keep going.
And then
Is
the very
this
next
Mr.
day,
Griffin?
he's shot in the head.
It's yours?
I think this really,
So you-
really, really lines up for motive. And it seems like the judge is pretty fair. And I'm hoping he'll just kind of allow everything.
Okay.
He's probably like, dude, my client's guilty, but can you like back off a little bit?
Source indulgence, 1 moment, Your Honor.
Yeah, I'm writing more notes so I can kind of again line up things for
Everything, Miss.
an encyclopedia of people.
Seconder?
Miss Seconder, yes.
Seconder is,
I can do that from the spreadsheet, Your Honor. And then we're marking the supporting documentation, which I'll go ahead and mark, but I think with Ms. Seconder, we can kind of walk through each one and describe each one
The second what?
while we do that. But each packet has, we've got this spreadsheet that has each one on there, and then for each one of them, we tried to minimize it down to the bare minimum. And again, this isn't even all of the misappropriation.
Nope.
But we've got just have a few supporting documents for each one, which is the disbursement
Gloria
sheet,
Satterfield,
the fake forged check typically, and then the corrected
Hakeem
disbursement sheet
Pinckney,
that the firm had to do. That's generally what each packet has. For example,
Natasha
is that correct, Ms.
Thomas,
Sessions?
That's correct.
And so I can go through those quickly and
Hannah
do that on the spreadsheet. And then we
Blyler,
have one other category that they uncovered of manner in which he was able to misappropriate money going back to, I think, 2008, 2009, something like that.
you may proceed.
Thank you. All right.
I've never sat in the audience for court either. If you have to pee, can you just get up? That's Justin Bamberg. He is a representative of one of the clients, two of the clients. Justin Bamberg. Who does he represent? I believe it was Hakeem Pinckney, Natasha Thomas. Where is my notes in that? And I believe
So you're on, we're going through that packet that was provided up there with you, and we're going to go in order except for Hirschberger, which we already talked about. And so, Ms. Seconder, can you see okay on that screen there?
Yes.
Okay.
that was the guy who was
I'm gonna just kinda
walking.
move through these as
in the courtroom.
expeditiously, but as accurately as we can. First one, we have this particular client, Ms. Adriana. Is that correct?
That's right.
All right, and I'm going to put 317 up on the screen, and is this the disbursement sheet for that?
That is the
Malik
disbursement
Williams,
sheet for that.
Natasha Thomas, and
And down
Hakeem
at the
Pinckney
bottom,
is
you
who
recognize
Justin
the signature
Bamberg
where it says
represents.
attorney?
And he's also a
That's Alex's
politician in South
signature.
Carolina as well. That's why he's here in the courtroom too.
Typically, the attorneys meet with the clients and get them to sign these disbursement sheets before any disbursements were made.
Typically, we did the checks on the attorney's signature, and then the attorney met with the client and had them signed at the same time they distributed and discussed the disbursement.
Gotcha. All right, and then right here on this particular one, we have a total recovery amount of how much?
$247,500.
All right, and then the firm gets paid its fees out of that.
And again, that looks like a reduced fee of $22,000.
And what happens to the rest of the money?
The 225,073.46 went to a fake forge account that was for Alex's benefit.
All right, and is that the check right there?
That is,
Whose signature is that right there?
that's Alex.
All right, and that's 225 and change, and then you have the corrected disbursement sheet, is that correct?
That's correct.
And this is where the firm had to make good. on
Oh yeah,
absolute
I did that.
misappropriation.
Oh yeah.
That's correct.
Again, it's not like Alec didn't make money as an attorney.
This would be for Mr. Barrett, using the first name, is that correct?
That's right, Barrett Boulware.
All
He
right,
just
using the
wanted
first name. Yeah,
more.
this first one is the
And
75,
took advantage
193, is that
of
right?
That is the check I discussed earlier.
People in
that
crisis.
Was payable to Barrett that Alec endorsed directly and deposited into his account.
All right, and I'm on exhibit 318. We're going to the third page, but is this that check right here that was made out to Mr. Bulwer?
That is, and that was actually found as desk after September 3rd.
All right, and you recognize that writing right there? I can zoom in if you need to.
That's Alec's writing.
All right, and
Huh. They
This
probably
is the
didn't let him go
deposit
back
slip
to his
along with it?
office.
Yes,
what's the name right there?
Alec Murdaugh.
All right, going to the next one on the list, we have this one, and the amount is 279, 850.65. Is that right?
A piece
That's
of
correct.
shit.
All right, and we're still on
Listen to
exhibit,
all this money.
318.
On top of making a six-figure
And this is
income.
the,
Yes, he didn't get
disbursement sheet,
paid till the end of the
original
year,
disbursement
but
sheet right there.
budget
That's
people.
correct.
Two signatures down at the bottom.
That's Alec Murdaugh's.
And what does that say right there?
$279,000, $850.65. Payable forged.
Fake forge or real forge?
Fake.
All right, and then what is that right there?
That's the check payable to Ford showing Alec signing it and endorsement on the back.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the next one. We have, this is Hirschberg. We already did that one, correct?
That's correct.
Well, yeah, we already did that one. All right, let's go on. And we did the next two. Those were those two fees that Alec told you he was structuring.
That's right.
All right, or at least this one was, correct?
That's right.
All right, let's go on to Ms. Gary. This is Safes 319. This is the disbursement sheet right here.
That is the initial disbursement sheet.
Okay, and what is that right there?
Excuse me, that is not the initial, that's the second one. So there's a forward structure right there of 112.5, a payment of the personal rep and the amount divvied between the beneficiaries. That forward structure should have been paid to the beneficiaries, and again, it was paid to the fake forge account.
All right,
You
look
see
at-
the check signed by Alec and endorsed by Alec.
all right, so that's 112.5 right there, correct?
That's right,
And then you have the corrected disbursement where y'all had to make right to the clients.
that's correct.
All right. Moving on to the next one. We have Mr., and I'm gonna use their first names. Use that for me if you can, please.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Christopher.
Mhm.
All right, and we have this, you have this disbursement right here, is that correct?
That's right.
And whose signature is that right there?
Alec Murdaugh's
And we got how much?
7,000
Going to what?
fake forge.
The fake forge, is that correct?
That's right,
And then we have the check
that we do.
and who's, do you recognize that on the back?
That is Alec Murdaugh's.
Okay, and this is $750,000.
That's correct.
All right. And then we have another disbursement sheet where y'all had to correct it and make it right to the client.
That's correct.
Y'all had to pay back $750,000
We did.
that Alex spent.
We
Client
did.
money.
We did. He stole it.
All right, let's go to the next one. Dion Martin. We have 3 for Mr. Martin. Is that correct?
That's
I like
correct.
how she keeps reinforcing he stole it. He stole
we
it.
have-
He stole it.
So you have a little new category.
It's
here.
disgusting,
You see
isn't it?
above
Yes.
where it says structured annuity directly to Michael Gunn for 500,000.
He was
And
already
then it's
getting
offset by
a
the
fee from
proceeds
these
structured
settlements.
annuity
Attorneys
delay.
get a fee from these
This would
settlements.
represent like there was an annuity associated with that case that had been
And again,
properly
this isn't
structured
like
and sent.
some,
And that resulted in there being a $200,000 fee taken on that $500,000 that should not have been taken from the client.
So just a slight hand of paperwork, and Ellen created a phantom real $200,000 in fees from thin air.
That's right.
yeah, he would like
right.
run up the
That's not the end of
charges
this one, is it?
for attorney's fees.
Yeah.
Okay.
200 and something thousand extra
All right,
attorney's
right here on the
fees.
second page, we have a disbursement to Forge. Is that correct?
That's right.
And is that real Forge or fake
That's
Forge?
the fake forge.
How much is that one?
$338,056.14.
Okay. Now, we already talked about on this list, we talked about the fake fee of 200,000 that you just mentioned.
That's right.
And we did the 338.
This is why it infuriates me
14. Okay, let's keep
that
going.
people are like, "Oh, he's so nice
What's
and
that?
he's so
That's the
southern
check
and
for the
polite and whatever." I'm
$338,000
like,
that's payable to the fake forge and endorsed by Elliott.
I get personally
and then
angry
what is
because
this
I've
disbursement sheet?
encountered
This one
people
is
like
showing a
this.
structured payment
and
of $45,000, and this one incidentally had
A lot
quote
of us are told to
attached
shut
it
up and quit talking
and
about
signed
the
by the
South
client.
instead
And that
of
also went to the
this
fake
has
forge
nothing to
account,
do with
his
Southern
personal
culture. This has
This
to
is a
do
copy of the
with
quote from Forge.
this
But
person
no
being
forged
a
structure was ever,
vindictive
No,
materialized.
none was done. We
Asshole.
verified none was ever done.
who happens to
What
be
is that,
Southern.
$45,000 check there?
This is the $45,000 check
yes.
to the fake forge deposited by
When
Elliott.
you've been around
Is
this, you're
this the
able to
disbursement sheet where y'all had to
decipher
correct it
their
and make it right to the
mannerisms
client?
a little
Yes.
bit more. And if you notice too, something I
Moving
wanted
on
to
the
point
next
out.
one. We have at least
gonna
Mallory, and
turn
that's the one I showed
Elise
you at the
Mallory.
beginning as an example. Is
That's
that
right.
All right, so we've done that one, and that was 183,528.
So this is millions.
That's right.
Millions. Yeah, but again, these are settlements from people who need these to
All right, the
survive.
last one I talked about was 321.
One
The
person's
one before that was
mother
320, and the one
died
before that was
in this
319. We are
accident.
now on 322.
She was a teenager,
Let me turn the page.
did not have money to buy groceries. That's
And
who
we
he
have
took
Mr.
this money
Jamian,
from.
is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, and right here, we've got a disbursement sheet, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, and we have.
So
a
he's
forge
capable
for
of doing that and
$90,000.
representing these
correct.
people.
All right, and is that real forge or
So we
fake
had to
forge?
go
Fake
through all of their
forge.
here, all their
Okay.
information here,
And what
what
is this
happened
right
to
here,
them
sideways?
here,
That
how
is
it
the
affected
check
their
payable to
lives for
Forge, the fake
the
forge,
entirety
and
of
the
their
endorsement on the
lives,
back of the check.
and he stole from them while looking them in the eye, saying, "I'll take care of you." You don't
All
think
right,
he could
and then
do
we
something to
have,
his wife
an
and son?
expense disbursement right there of 5541.17, is that correct?
That's correct.
And is that another amount that y'all had identified?
We identified later that that was an incorrect charge to a client file, so we reimbursed that as well.
Okay, and is this that page right here?
Yes.
But in his
And what did Alec bill to the client that y'all determined was improper?
Some
Everything.
airfare
To
on
where?
a private flight.
oh yeah,
I can't recall, but I believe that one might have been down to the Keys.
he used some client funds to go to a
Y'all have to pay that money back too in this corrected disbursement?
We did.
I believe it was a College World
That was
Series.
exhibit 322. We got 333. Mr. Johnny, $95,000. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right. On the first page, we have the disbursement sheet, and we have a forge line right here for $95,000.
That's correct.
Did that go to the real forge or the fake forge?
Fake forge.
Okay. We have a copy of the check right there. Is that correct?
That's the copy of the check and the endorsement and a copy of the correcting disbursement.
Y'all had to make that right to the client.
We did.
Moving on to 324. Mr. Jordan, you got a disbursement to Forge, is that right?
That's right, for $85,000 along with the fake check and the endorsement on the check.
Okay. And then the corrected disbursement, correct?
You missed the one for $65,000. There was two in that one.
Yep, there it is.
Yeah, I
right
want to
there.
see
That's
his
right.
family's
And then the
reactions.
correcting.
All right. So we had an 85 and a 65,000 for that one. correct?
Why is his brother freaking smiling, you piece of patootie? Little
Exhibit
smirk ass.
325. This is now Mr. Manuel, and we have a $70,000 Forge, is that correct?
That's correct.
Fake Forge?
Fake forge.
All right. And what's that right there?
The check payable to forge, the fake forge and the endorsement. And this is the correcting disbursement where we paid the client back that $70,000.
Going to the next one, we got Miss Mary, and we got a settlement proceeds to Forge of 19.5 right there, is that correct?
That's correct.
And this is exhibit 326. And did that get a real Forge or fake
The
Forge?
fake forge.
Okay, I'm gonna pause her. Gonna pause her just for a minute, but who, me? I can really spot a Murdaugh that easily in the crowd. Honey, they have been on Good Morning America. They're just a regular old family. They're not a dynasty family. Yeah, I can. In Alex's police interview, and isn't this disgusting that this is still going on? Oh, you spotted them too? Good. Okay. I mean, they all look the same. But in his police interview, I believe it was the second one. Who knows? One of the ones where he was sitting in the car. And he talks about pardon me, my God, I don't know what happens whenever I try to talk. The very first witness yesterday, the first friend witness of Paul's yesterday, that I believe it was Rogan. And you hear in the police interview, Alec referring to him as such a good boy. He's such a good boy. And people may think that's nice, right? I feel like that's manipulative. I think he's trying to almost put a message out there to that kid. Rogan. I don't know if it was Rogan or not, but I will say it's Rogan. I think the second witness yesterday was Wills. But almost kind of like a little subliminal manipulation, like he's such a good boy, meaning like you're going to fall in line. You're going to do what I say. You're not going to act up because I got you. If you do something that gets you out of line, I'll handle you in some way or the other. That's how I take it. Again, I've been spoken to certain ways. I'm not like some isolated person. You live in an area, you learn the mannerisms, you learn the culture, you learn the whatever. And not everyone that says this says that to be manipulative. But Alex patterns of saying this at particular time to me proves it. You can hear him doing things like this in the jailhouse calls that he has with his surviving son Buster. Oh, I hate to trouble you. I know you've got a lot going on, son, you know? Like it's so manipulative. And I found that interesting because I think Alec knew that was Paul's very close friend who probably was the most threat and the biggest one to speak out about him. So see if you pick up on little subtle things and subtle ways that he says favors that he asks or ways he describes people. It to me is very telling. All right, I'm gonna mute again and put them back on. Oh, we're getting up. What are we getting up for? Boop, 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 boop. I wonder if we're just taking a stretch break. It's definitely interesting to watch. Why do they all have a damn smirk on their face? Can you tell me that? Buster has a smirk on his face. Randolph has a smirk on his face. No. John Marvin does. Like, what's up with shit-eating grin? It's so gross.
We'll show you what's been marked as Exhibit 329.
So gross.
So this is proceeding and how's that?
I do. This is a spreadsheet of the payments that were made to Palmetto State Bank and misappropriated that method.
Where Russel Laffitte.
Earlier that fake forge account, the Richard Alexander Murdaugh DBA forge started around 2015. Is that right?
That's correct.
Palmetto State Bank is where his friend Russel Laffitte was the CEO, and his other
She
friend,
just uncovered a different mechanism whereby
Chad
Murdaugh
Westendorf,
misappropriated money
was
from clients
the vice
prior to that.
president.
Is that correct?
That's correct. Most of these took place in 2011 and 2012.
Way before the boat
Did
crash.
Alec have some particularly big cases in those years?
He did.
And what were those cases?
So he had Arthur Badger, which was against a UPS truck in Allendale where his wife was
I
killed.
know people in
And I
Allendale.
believe a couple children hurt. There were several beneficiaries in that case. In that same wreck, well, then you have another one with Hakeem Pickney, who in that same wreck had a cousin in the car named Natasha Thomas.
Okay. Let's talk about the Badger case. What was the total settlement in that particular case?
In the Badger case, the total that was apportioned to Arthur Badger was 3.1 million. There was also a companion case, Donna Badger, with a good bit apportioned to it as well. I can't recall the number right here off the top of my head.
Just for Arthur Badger, which is one of the clients that Alec had, correct?
Right.
Just for Arthur Badger, what was the attorney fee that he received in that settlement?
He received $1,240,000.
The firm did.
The firm did.
That would be ultimately on his books at the end of the year.
It would be credited to him.
$1,260,000, is that right?
$1,240,000.
Is that all the money that Alec received from that particular case when y'all did your review?
That is not
What else did Alec take?
$1,325,000.
Another $1.325 million, is that right?
That's right.
And how did he go about doing that?
Checks were payable to Palmetto State Bank that were then converted into personal items, payments for bank loans, payments for loans from a conservator account, payments to Johnny Parker, I believe it was, one to his father for paying back personal loans that they had given him.
And in November of this past year, 2021, the CEO of this bank she's describing, conservator over these settlements, was found guilty of misappropriating funds. So, one of which is knowing that Alex was committing these frauds that she's talking about. So, he was found guilty of knowing about these crimes.
Guess I'll just talk over him.
So even though,
All right, we've got
this is
on
what I was
listed at
talking
the
about,
top,
like
we
at
have
the
Mr. Arthur Badger,
top
is
of
that
the
right?
stream,
That's right.
And we have
even
the
though
date,
he has not been
and we
legally
have the
found
amount, which is
guilty.
how much?
$1,360,000, and that is because we returned the PR fee in that case as well because the PR failed to do their job properly.
Okay. And I'm going to show you what's been marked for this hearing is 3:30. And is this the disbursement sheet?
Yes, sir.
And
This makes me so mad.
down here, we have Palmetto State Bank payment to fund structure per client request. Is that right?
That's right.
And that's the 1.325 million.
That's correct.
And did that go to the client?
No.
I see there's an email right here.
They also keep people from getting their funds too
Who is that from and to, and what's the
in
date on that?
lawsuits.
You need me to bring it to you?
So this email is from Russell
I'm just so,
to Alec.
I knew of this, but
Right.
Russel Laffitte, former CEO of Palmetto
There was
State
an
Bank.
email that came from Alec to Russell asking if we could recut the checks in a certain way. Then Russell independently sent an email to Alec, which was forwarded to me and my accounting staff, asking if we could recut the $1.3 million check into 4 different checks.
And did y'all do that?
We did.
Have any reason at all to mistrust what was going on at that time?
No.
So
Well, then that's on
ultimately-
you guys. Sorry.
And ultimately, those got broken down into all these payments. This is the payments and how these checks were written and what benefit they went to.
And they were made out to what entity?
Palmetto State Bank.
And then after they were made out to Palmetto State Bank, what happened to them?
They got converted to personal usage for Alec Murdaugh's benefit.
Real quick, I see the spreadsheet says July 2005. I'm going to point you to this disbursement, though. What's the date on that disbursement?
November 2012.
So is that an error that needs to be corrected?
I'm sure that that's an error that needs to be corrected.
Give me a pen and
Again, I don't know anybody
all right.
particularly, but like,
now at Exhibit 332, and we go back to your spreadsheet, and we have Natasha Thomas. Do you recognize that?
I do.
All right, and
it's just not so far
what was the
fetched
amount on
that
particular one.
these
There were
systems
two
would
payments.
affect
One was
people I
for
know or
$325,000 even. The other one was $25,245.
their families.
All right, I'm looking at Exhibit
Or mine.
332. We have down here at
'Cause
the
of
bottom. We have
lines of work
payment,
that my
and it
families
says
are in.
what entity right there
Palmetto State Bank.
for 325.
Yes.
So was a check
In the
cut
state.
from the trust account for 325?
Yes,
Is that it right there?
that is it.
And did that money go to the client?
No, that money went for Alex's benefit.
Did y'all have to pay that back and make that right for his
We did pay that
misappropriation?
back.
Absolutely
What
disgusting.
you're seeing now is just all the different payments that were made from that money.
Those were converted at the bank into personal use for Alec.
That's correct.
I mean,
We're
if
looking
I
at the second
if I were
check,
him, I'd be crying right
for-
now.
How much was that?
But the jury's not out there.
$25,245.08.
Right. And that's made out to what entity?
Palmetto State Bank,
From the client trust account?
correct.
Did that go to the client or did that go somewhere else?
That went to Alex's personal use again.
All right. And did y'all ultimately have to make that right?
We did.
I don't know if you can hear my dog snoring.
Last one is Mr. Hakeem, correct?
That's correct.
Keem,
Is that in a
pink.
companion case to Ms. Thomas?
It is.
You got two misappropriations, is that right?
That's correct.
Whose
Looking at this
funds were
disbursement sheet,
used
we have
after
right
his
here,
death.
on the
And
disbursement sheet, what entity is
Russell-
that?
Palmetto State Bank,
For how much?
$309,581.46.
All right, and that's signed by who on this?
Who's
Russell Laffitte is
disabled.
Conservator.
And became further
And
disabled
is that the
due to
check
this
right there?
accident.
That is the check.
Made out to what entity?
Palmetto State Bank,
And what year?
December 2011.
Okay, and did that money go to the client?
It
Nope.
did not.
Did y'all ultimately have to pay that back?
We did.
And then finally, $60,000 for,
The PR fee again. We decided to pay the PR fee back.
and that's the PR fee right there for Mr. Laffitte, is that correct?
That's right.
The one who signed that disbursement sheet.
That's correct.
Personal representative, I believe. Because again, Lafitte made it seem like Hakeem's settlement was approved 4 days before Hakeem's death. So once that happened, a lot of the settlement was for keeping Hakeem alive because he was a quadriplegic, pardon me. And once he passed, funds for like a nurse and different things were no longer needed, which means that the attorney's fees and representative fees would no longer be as large or needed as well.
Russell Laffitte is my brother-in-law. He's married to my husband's sister.
What? What? Oh shit. I didn't know that.
June 7th, 2021, you came in demanding answers about,
She's really fucking pissed and affected by
That's
this.
correct.
and that conversation ended because we got a call about his father, correct?
That's correct.
Holy
And
fuck.
the
Pardon my
inquiry got pushed to the
language.
side because of the tragedy of the murder of Maggie and Paul. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Holy shit.
And
Wow.
additionally, Alec called you about having to get finances together for a hearing in the
I did
vote
not
case
know
later
that.
week. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that hearing got canceled as a result of the tragedy of the murder of Maggie and Paul.
That's correct.
And ultimately, in July, y'all received an email from Chris Wilson saying the money was in the account. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What did you later find out about whether not all that money was in the account?
We found out after September 3rd that all that money was not in the account. Chris Wilson called us and actually wanted us to pony up the other portion of the money.
And what portion was that?
There's a couple $100,000 that was still missing.
Wow. Wow.
A few months later,
Wow.
your attention got turned back to these matters.
Russel Laffitte is her brother-in-law.
And the whole thing
The
started on.
That's correct.
wow. Wow.
Griffin?
She's like, you thought you could play me. You thought I would be on your side. You thought. Boom, boom, boom.
You have an idea about how long you plan to be?
Lately, she's been dressing for revenge.
So we'll take about,
That's about
we'll take a
cringe.
break now for about 10 minutes.
Holy mother of God. I did not know that. Wow. I swear to God. This is like, holy shit. The biggest soap opera. Holy shit. Oh, I'm like smiling because I'm gobsmacked. Who did she say was married? I know Russel Laffitte is her brother-in-law, but I'm gonna have a moment. Yes, Petty, Payback, and Karma have entered the courtroom. Do you see how she's like, no, it was stolen. Oh, wait, don't forget about these funds. No, it was a fake account. No, the clients didn't get it. No, that was a fake account. Bitch is pissed because I bet you anything, Maggie was probably her friend. And if she's an accountant, which I mean, I don't know why I'm saying if, like this could affect her career. She could have been held legally and criminally responsible for the things that Alec and Russell were doing. That makes it look like she was complicit in this. Nikki says he's married to her sister, I think. Wait. The sister that's standing behind her man? The sister that's like, oh my God, we've had to go to a double wide trailer. This is insane and a half. I was recently somewhere where somehow maybe I'm not gonna. Do you know there are some people out there who believe their children have never been mean? People who live in the state who believe their children have never been mean and that they're the best at everything and that they can never do anything wrong, legitimately. And their friends agree. oh yeah, it's not possible. Your kid is not capable of ever being mean. I'm like, your kid's in their 20s. And you don't think in their lifespan of 20 something years they've ever been mean to anybody, ever. Interesting. And everyone's going along with this. And maybe I'm witnessing this conversation, maybe I'm not. I have children in elementary school. I have a child who is disabled, and he's been mean to people before. I feel like that mentality breeds people like this. If you are human, you've been mean. Nope. Her kids are not capable of it. Or his kids. I don't know who I'm talking about. I think I just made a scenario. Not capable of being mean. So I have another person to look up. Chris Wilson. That name keeps being thrown around. I wonder if he worked for Forge Consulting. I'm sorry. My mind is still blown. I cannot believe being in this position of, maybe since they're taking a 10-minute break, I'll put like a little linky-do in here in case anybody wants to come up here. Chat, you don't have to. I'm just putting it up here. Holy mother. So, okay. My brother-in-law, I'm doing it from this lady's perspective. Holy crap. I'm learning that my brother-in-law has been the conservative. I'm an accountant for a law firm. I am an accountant for a law firm. And my brother-in-law has made himself the personal representative and conservator over funds which have been awarded to clients of an attorney that works for the law firm I work for. And I'm finding out my brother-in-law and this other attorney have not been giving clients this money. Question, why is there no follow-up with the law firm itself when clients are awarded money? Why aren't there steps in place or policies in place where the office manager, I don't really know how law firms work, but or the head accountant are talking the client through the steps that need to take place in order to gain access to the proceeds from their settlement? Yes. Same thing happened in Girardi case. So what's interesting, maybe even someone who's covering this now, I brought this up to several people. If you're into the Girardi case, I understand these people aren't celebrities, but have you heard about this? But I guess it's only convenient to talk about when it becomes national news. But hey, so when I ask people if they've heard of the Murdaugh saga, I ask if they've heard about, the Girardi case and what was done. And I'm like, it's like that, but with some banjos, backwoods, and murder. There's nothing B. What's a synonym for murder that starts with a B? I don't know, because I don't know words. But yeah, I this chick is pissed. You've put her in a position where her job and other people's jobs at that firm are in question. You put where there could be criminal charges for them. My brother-in-law is in it. An attorney I work for is in it and on it. And then this dude has the gall to be like, you want. She straight up reenacted the whole dang thing. Like, okay. StreamYard kicked me out. So I don't know what's happening. But I'm going to go ahead and read some of the, bloodshed. I saw that before it kicked me out. Perfect. Now I forgot what the backwoods, banjos, and bloodshed. Yeah. Perfect. Again, I'm going to kind of consolidate this into video, narrow it down. I feel like I get too descriptive and too detailed. I will share my screen here. This is talking about Corey Fleming, who was an attorney and who helped good old Alec be to misappropriate funds, allegedly. Where is it? There we go. All right. So that Fleming's face right there. Let me just make sure this oh, where did it go? Why? I don't what want it. Where did it go? Okay. That guy right there is Corey Fleming on the left. I think we all know Alec Murdaugh's face was written back in March of 2022. So he's out on it for being criminally charged, accused of conspiring with steal millions from the estate of Murdaugh's former housekeeper, Gloria Satterfield. She was the one that fell down the steps and passed away later on in the hospital because of injuries related to the accident. If you've listened to the 911 call when Gloria fell, Mag on it. I don't remember if it's Buster or Paul with her, but it's an interesting 911 call. I don't know Maggie's demeanor normally, but it was interesting. So it says on Wednesday, Judge Allison Lee unsealed a 30-count indictment from state grand jury charging Fleming with 18 criminal counts tied to the theft of proceeds from 2 death settlements totaling $4.3 million meant for the late Gloria Satterfield's estate. And again, pardon me. Oh, I don't remember my train of thought there. So, yes, I do. Corey Fleming was not only an attorney, oh gosh, I had it written down here somewhere. Okay, no, I don't. Okay, I'm mistaking it was for something else. But yeah, he was an attorney for South Carolina, I believe in Hampton County as well. It also said in another article that he was recused from being a lawyer in Georgia as well. So yeah. Oh, this is a different one. You're probably seeing a different article than I have pulled up. Where are we? There are so many. Corey Fleming. Here we go. So Satterfield, again, was a longtime housekeeper for Alec Murdaugh, but died after a fall in the home. Afterward, Murdaugh is accused of orchestrating a scheme to have Satterfield's surviving sons sue him. So Alec told the boys, we're gonna sue my insurance company, file a claim with them, so that you guys will be, again, taken care of because your mom passed on my property or had injuries, had an accident that led to her death on my property. So we'll do this. Here's this attorney that I know, Corey Fleming. He's going to be your representative. We're going to take care of you. So he had his son sue him for an insurance settlement and let them know it was going to benefit them financially long term. Because again, their mother has passed and one of these children is disabled. So follow a theme here. So prosecutors for the South Carolina Attorney General's office alleged the only ones who saw financial benefit from the lawsuit were Murdaugh, Fleming, Corey Fleming, and the Hampton banker named Chad Westendorf. Again, Chad Westendorf was the vice president for Palmetto State Bank, where Russ was the CEO of Palmetto State Bank. And that person is who the lady was talking about, the lady who was just on stand, the accountant. That's her brother-in-law. So Corey Fleming was Corey Fleming, Murdaugh, and Westendorf all gained financially from Gloria Satterfield's insurance settlements. Murdaugh directed Satterfield's sons to hire Fleming as their attorney and also to install Westendorf as the family's personal representative, on financial and matters for their mom's. Once the money from the Murdaugh's insurance provider started coming in, authorities say the proceeds wound up in a bank account belonging to Murdaugh that mimicked a legitimate business. I'm assuming that's that fake forged bank account they've been referring to. With Fleming apparently writing checks to Murdaugh's bogus account on behalf of the settlement funds, he received, bogus account out of the settlement funds he received on the Satterfield's family's behalf. Okay. It is alleged and Murdaugh to keep $3.4 million of the $4.3 million in settlement funds intended for Satterfield's family, with Murdaugh getting his hands on the lion's share and using it to fund his affluent lifestyle by paying off debts. So this was part of the reason Murdaugh was originally arrested. He was later charged with the deaths of Maggie and Paul while he was incarcerated and without bond. Both Fleming and Westendorf paid back money they collected as part of legal proceedings. Both claimed to have been unwitting participants and that Murdaugh had manipulated them as well. However, recent testimony by Westendorf and a sworn deposition revealed details suggesting Fleming was not only aware of Murdaugh's intentions, but actively participating. Charges and again, this is all alleged because he has not been convicted. Laffitte has. Charges and Wednesday's indictment seem to back up Westendorf's claims. Fleming is a longtime friend of Murdaugh. He was a groomsman in his wedding, godfather to Murdaugh's late son Paul, and even Murdaugh's college roommate. So that is a little bit of the description of who Corey Fleming is. Hey, no problem, Nikki. And I know I don't know how much longer I have to be here because I need to go pick up the kids from school soon and probably more than popcorn. But that's who, a little bit about Corey Fleming, a little bit more about motive. It explains Chris Westendorf again, who was, I believe, shown in the birthday video that they played in trial yesterday afternoon toward the end of the day, and why, the going in the video and asking the witness, asking him, would you know of any reason why Alec would take Paul and Maggie's life? Just both those doors were open to the prosecution, then being like, all right, do you know about these crimes he's been charged with, these financial crimes he's been charged with? Do you know where he's getting his money from? Do you know where he was spending that money? Do you know what he's been accused of? So this is all the testimony right now. I guess you can call it that. I'm not sure because the jury's here, or jury's not there. That is all pleading the case to why this is necessary to be included in the trial, because it lays the foundation for motive, especially the dates. When she was saying, I confronted him on the day that Paul and Maggie were murdered, and then we confronted him to resign the day before he was mysteriously shot by some mystery person. I think that really shows the links that the coincidences go to in regard to when things happen around Alec Murdaugh, people wind up dead, to include Paul and Maggie. So it helps eliminate reasonable doubt, in my opinion. But I may listen to a little bit more of this, and then oh, you guys can't hear it. I don't have it on my screen. Where?
Good morning, Ms. Secretary.
Good morning.
On the first, just go to June. I want to go to June the 7th, when you were up in Alec Murdaugh's office. And
June 2nd.
You were talking to him about attorney fee money.
Correct.
And while you were in the midst of this conversation, you made a telephone call informing him that father was being admitted back to the hospital, right?
That was my understanding, yes.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and the stream because keep getting kicked out by StreamYard. So I will go ahead and continue either this afternoon or this evening. Listening